Okay, this is VK3SL. We're testing here on 160 metres and 2 metres and streaming online, and we had to resort to our alternative theme music tonight. Something's wrong with the CD player. In fact, I think all 3 CD players in this booth are all failing. So they've got to that point where they're mechanically not robust anymore, and we have more junk to deal with, to throw off the tower, to do something with. I don't know. It's crazy. All right, so we used the YT version, and then there was some hum, and I realised that something else was switched in. So it's a constant monitoring operation, and it's in the spirit of these test transmissions. Of course, we are always looking at ways to improve things, and watching, monitoring, understanding. It's a big learning curve, a steep learning curve for me. Anyhow, good to be back, and we have a few things lined up for this evening. A bit of nostalgia. Well, we have, yes, that's the name of the game, really. We use nostalgia as a means to the ends, and of course the ends has nothing to do with entertainment. We all know that, absolutely certain. Well, let's start off with something that's very non-entertaining, and we will cut to the chase. This is VK3SL.
You don't know where to go to, why don't you go where Harlem sits, putting on the red spangled gowns upon a bevy of high browns from down the levee, all misfits, putting on the red. That's where each and every Lulu Belle goes, every Thursday evening with her swell beaux. Rubbing elbows, come with me and we'll attend a jubilee and see them spend their last 2 bits putting on the red.
Right, that was Earl Burnett and his Los Angeles Biltmore Hotel Orchestra from 1930. We're putting on the Ritz. And, yeah, look, we love to play things here which are in a minor key but with happy minors. Yes, does that make sense? I don't know if it does. But anyhow, yes, material's in a minor key that has a slightly more positive theme. We riffed on this a bit last week, and it was an interesting thing to consider because during the Depression they had all of those... had all the difficulties, of course, and everyone was feeling very hard done by, or most people, many people, and so the music wanted to address that, but at the same time it wanted to lift people's spirits. So we had this sort of fascinating juxtaposition, and putting on the Ritz is slightly in that category. But we do have something in the Depression's vein. Now, Frank mentioned to me last week about a great song from the Depression called, let's find it here, it's on the list, it's here. I'm scanning through. We're a little bit sort of disorganised today. Maybe I've lost it. Maybe I've lost it. I think I have. I'm going to have to come back and find it and put it on later. So we'll just we'll underscore that one and come back. Maybe I can find it. Maybe I can just sort of riff here and find it. I'm scrolling down now. I'm looking here, looking for a picture of Mr. Bing. I'm slightly giving the game away. Mr. Bing from 1930. It's a Depressions era song, and it was also recorded by Rudy Valley. I listened to the Rudy Valley version and didn't think it was so good. And there was a number of other recordings of it too. I'm still scanning, looking for this recording so I can actually play it. I'm going down through my history list, and I've watched too much YouTube, folks. This is not a good habit. Too much YouTube. All these things on the list. Look at them all. Here we go. This is slightly more familiar territory. Not William Mengelberg, not Furtwängler. No. We're still going back. Still going back. And are we there yet? No, we're not. I think I've lost it. I must have done this on another computer. That's a bit disappointing. I will have to look it up. But that's not an easy thing to do from where I'm sitting. It's crazy. I have to find ways and means to be totally and utterly flexible. And I somehow haven't found that yet. Those systems. No. Well, that's a bit of a disappointment. We've lost it. All right. Riff. Oh, I'll put something else on. Let's have something else. Let's have some vintage Japanese music. There we go. There's another theme. And then I'll find what I was looking for before. This is VK3SL. We're testing on 160 meters, 2 meters, and we're streaming online, of course. So have a listen to this. Well, how evocative is that? The Japanese flute and the pentatonic scales. Oh, yes, it's wonderful. It's charming music from the 1930s, Japanese music. We don't know who the artists are. I haven't got a clue. I can't read Japanese. I do have a Japanese correspondent in the house, but he gets sick of me asking these sort of questions. I've been holding record labels up to him, asking him to read them out and listen to things, and I've been told on no uncertain terms that that's not really what he wants to do. Fair enough. I don't blame him. Anyhow, that was yes, another pentatonic offering. We'll have the other side, I think, of that, because I think the other side's quite evocative too. But before we do, I'm going to put this track on that I had queued up before it disappeared, the one that evaporated. So I was hoping to sort of, create a bit of a theme and surf on the wave and make everything slick and happening. But I'm afraid, folks, it's all stolid here. We sort of trudge through things, we shovel out the shellac, and somehow things sort of fall into place. VK3SO.
They used to tell me I was building a dream, and so I followed the mob. When there was earth to plow or guns to bear, I was always there, right on the job. They used to tell me I was building a dream, with peace and glory ahead. Why should I be standing in line, just waiting for bread? Once I built a railroad, I made it run, made it race against time. Once I built a railroad, now it's done. Brother, can you spare a dime? Once I built a tower up to the sun, brick and rivet and lime. Once I built a tower, now it's done. Brother, can you spare a dime? Once in khaki suits, gee, we looked swell, full of that Yankee doodly-dum. 500,000 boots went slogging through hell, and I was the kid with the drum. Say, don't you remember? They called me Al. It was Al all the time. Why don't you remember? I'm your pal. Say, buddy, can you spare a dime? Once in khaki suits, ah, gee, we looked swell, full of that Yankee doodly-dum. 500,000 boots went slogging through hell, and I was the kid with a drum. Oh, say, don't you remember? They called me Al. It was Al all the time. Say, don't you remember? I'm your pal. Buddy, can you spare a dime?
Right, you're being depressed by Bing Crosby, and he's I don't know who he's performing with there, but that's another Depressions era song, and yes, it sort of captures the flavour of the times. Absolutely, it's so beautifully sung. Actually, he's a master of drawing out a phrase. I listened to several versions, and I thought, and I had to play that one. So that's it's I think we sort of we have riffed on this theme quite a few times before, playing music from the Depression with these sort of undercurrents, and that one's not really that's in a minor key, and it's a depressing song. Others have a slightly more jollying aspect. So anyhow, we'll actually explore this in a slightly different way later on, and so stay tuned, and we'll hear how this approach to creating an atmosphere can also be achieved having happy sad music or sad happy music. Anyhow, enough enough antics. I think what I'll do now is I'll play the other side of that Japanese record. We heard a bit of it before, and I'm enchanted by this disc. It's an old Victor. I have no idea who's performing or where it's from. It's from about 1937, looking at the label and just gauging by the style and so on. But another charming record from that time. So let's have a listen. This is VK3SL. We're testing. Of course we're testing. We're not entertaining. So please make sure that you have that understanding before we go any further. Here we go. Got the beat? I'll now advance the stylus. We just heard some more Japanese music from the 1930s on an older Victor, and this is one of these records that won't come off the turntable. The hole is too small, so I've got to wrestle it off. You can hear it being sort of squeaking as I pull the record off, and here we go. And I have no idea. It doesn't give me any information other than it is a Japanese Victor. So we heard the A-side before, and we just heard the B-side then. So evocative music from old Japan. Now, let's have something else oriental now. I found a Ronald Franco, another disc from this set of Under the Counter records. Sold, this one was 6 shillings at Batman's in the 1960s, 50s maybe, but I think the recording dates were much earlier. It's on a Parlophone, and this one's called Chinese Nights. So, yes, listen to the subtext because this is full of double entendres. Have a listen. VK3SL testing, of course.
Give me China. I don't mean the crockery, that's just a mockery. I mean the country of China. I want to peep there, I want to sleep there, I want to sleep in China. Chinese nights are quiet nights, chink, 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 chink. On all the little Chinese lantern lights, wink, 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 wink. And the flat, fat feet of the rickshaw boys, patter, 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 but they daren't make a noise. For the Chinese Mr. Belisha told them they mustn't Hong Kong from 11 p.m. in Shanghai, Peking, Fuzhou, Nanking, or anywhere else in chink, 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 anywhere else in China. Out in the wilds of Asia Minor, just on the left-hand side of China, down in the salt mines, works a miner, an Asian miner in Asia Minor, just on the left-hand side of China. See what I mean? Okay. And just on the left-hand side of China, that's the right of Asia Minor, dwells a girl, and none could be finer. She's the China of the Asian miner who works in a mine in Asia Minor, just on the left-hand side of China. See what I mean? Okay. Twice a year, in an ocean liner, the miner's China who lives in China pays a visit to Asia Minor to see the Asia Minor miner. When they meet, they get a kind of ticklish feeling down the spine, and so would you if you lived in China and had a China in Asia Minor that you couldn't get to without a liner. When you met, what could be finer than that ticklish feeling down the spine that I've described in a previous liner? See what I mean? Okay. Well, one day, the Asia Minor miner received a note from his Chinese China to say that a tiny human whiner was brought by the stork to the miner's China. So the Asia Minor miner is now a major as well as a minor. And the Asia Minor miner's miner is growing up into as fine a man as can be found in China. Perhaps one day he'll take a liner and land, of course, in Asia Minor, and naturally become a miner. Maybe he will have a China, a charming China, who lives in China just on the right of Asia Minor. See what I mean? Okay. And if you ever visit China and meet the Asian miner's China, you'll find she doesn't grieve or pine a bit for the Asian Minor miner. She hopes one day he'll take a liner and come to his China and his miner. And of course she'll sit and sigh no more for the Asian Minor miner, who works in a mine in Asia Minor, just on the left-hand side of China. See what I mean? Okay. Chinese nights are quiet nights, chink, 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 chink. And all the little Chinese lantern lights, wink, 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 wink. And the girls and boys play a game that's tame. Hanky, panky, panky, it's a quiet sort of game. Or they play mahjong, or with great delight, they do jigga, jigga, jigsaw puzzles all night in Shanghai, Peking, Fuzhou, Nanking, or anywhere else in ching, 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 anywhere else in China. I'll have half a pound of opium, please.
Okay, thank you. I'll have half a pound as well. There we go. That was Ronald Franco with Monty Crick at the piano, and I'm hearing a bit of low-level humness there. I wonder if it's the secondary system is doing something a bit weird. All right, well, we'll just have to put up with it at the moment. Okay, I'm on Microphonics number 2, which is local to the turntables. And what shall we have next? Just looking through the pile. I have Lady in Red. This is Xavier Cougar and his Waldorf Astoria Orchestra with Don Reed and chorus. I like the Lady in Red. It's from Il Chilanti, I think the name of the film is, from 1934, if I'm correct. It's a Busby Berkeley film. Anyhow, this is it's a great song, actually, Lady in Red. See what you think. VK3SL, testing, of course. Okay, that was Xavier Cugat and his Waldorf Astoria Orchestra from mid-30s, Lady in Red on an old His Master's Voice. Okay, I was just going through the pile and I found China Boy, so we can keep our Oriental theme going. This is China Boy with Benny Goodman's trio. Now I think that's with Teddy Wilson and who? Benny Goodman, Teddy Wilson, and who is it? Might have been the vibraphone. Someone tell me. I know. Lionel Hampton, I think. I might be wrong. Let's have a listen, find out. UK3SL. Yeah, that was actually Benny Goodman, Gene Krupa and Teddy Wilson there. And so I'm hearing something else on my phones. I'm hearing more Bing Crosby. I reckon Bing's still going there. I might switch him off. Yes, he's still going there on the other line. Hear him faintly singing away there, trying to break through. Well, last week we had an Edison cylinder. We played a recording of Joe Belmont. Mr. Belmont was the whistler. He was the fellow who had the contract whistler. He whistled on for every label and every occasion. He was the mad whistler. And I found another one of his. In fact, I found some more cylinders of him as well, but I'm not set up for cylinders tonight. I found a early Zonophone. This is one of those early international Zonophone records going way, way back to early days of the century. This would probably be around about 1905. And a recording of a piece called The Chirpers. So I'm going to try out the magnetic pickup with these acoustic records. They seem to work well with the acoustics, so we'll give this a boil. Now, I think I'm right. Yes, I think that's the fader to use. And I'm not hearing that low-level hum, so I think it must be in the secondary system somewhere. I'm going to have to go do some more investigation. Everything's transformer coupled, but there is still... The problem is we've got RF and AF in close confines, and it never really works. I think it would be best to have major isolation, but unfortunately that's not possible at this time, so everything's a compromise. All right, so let's hear the Chirpers. This is Joe Belmont from way, way back, and see what you think of something that's absolutely and totally kitschy from the early days. VK3SL testing. He must be completely exhausted. I don't know how he keeps that going. It's a manic bird sound overload. How does he layer all those sounds? I don't know. Mr. Belmont, apparently his daughter became a whistler as well, and she was whistling until the 1980s. It's a bizarre story to think that someone was out there making a living doing bird impersonations. Well, I found another one. There's stacks of them here. He must have been really popular. Here's Sandra Yossi's orchestra, Bella, what's his name? And this is one of those programmatic series of Palm Court records from the mid-20s on parlophones. I think I played one a few weeks ago that with the Smithy in the Wood and the Mill in the Forest. I think I played those sides. And so this is from that same series. Goes back, I think it's electric, so it might sound a little bit more immediate. So let's have a listen to Bird Song at Even, it says. Maybe it's supposed to be evening, but they didn't put the ing on the end. Maybe. Who knows? Let's have another listen. I'm pretty sure this will be Joe Belmont too, about 2 decades later. VK3SL testing. how soporific is that? People must have had such boring lives back then. Well, what do I say? Now, look, it does have a certain ancient charm, I think. I can imagine going to the silent pictures, and there would have been an atmosphere. The room would have been full of smoke, and there would have been a Palm Court Orchestra playing that sort of music before the show, I imagine. So I think in the setting, it was an outing, and people like to be transported. But yeah, I do enjoy. Look, I find kitschy records they have a certain fascination, but that is it's right on the edge. Well, still, I'll still persevere. There's more where that came from, I'm afraid. Now, what else? Oh, yeah. Last week, I've had a bit of a fixation with a piece I played last week. I played Fiesta, or Bianca. It was a hit in 1931. Henry Bousset's orchestra. It was an very early rumba, but although it doesn't sound anything like a rumba, but it's supposed to be a rumba. And Henry Bousset made a very slow recording of it, and that was followed by a lot of German bands in the later years of the Weimar Republic recorded it as well. In fact, lots. And I've been scrounging around, and I think I found 12 different versions of the song. So it's a song that sort of endures a bit. And I actually made a whole playlist, which I've popped up on my YouTube channel. So if you want to be fiestaed out, you can sit down and just listen to them all. And it's a piece that's sort of, I don't know, it's an earworm. It's a piece I can't get out of my mind. I don't know why. It's some sort of pathology, I think. So it must be something wrong, because it's not great music, but it has some sort of, as I said before, some enduring quality. So here we go. I'm going to sort of have a bit of a fiesta segment, I think, until I exhaust this topic. So we'll have a listen to Eric Harden. It's not a great name. Mr. Eric Harden and his Simon Tanz Orchestra on a Gloria Carl Lindstrom record from 1931. So this is a rumba foxtrot. It's much faster than the version we heard last week. Much faster. In fact, I think we actually played two last week, didn't we? I played an electrochord of this as well. I should take note which ones I'm playing so I don't repeat them. Anyhow, let's have a listen to this. It's quite... I find there's something a little bit sinister about this piece as well. It's one of those pieces that sort of can be different things. Anyhow, I hope you don't get the earworm affliction that I did, but I feel compelled to play it. VK3SL. It's about to play again. No, once is enough, I think. Well, maybe not, because I've found that somebody else has got the disease. Someone recently, obviously, has been listening and feeling the same overwhelming desire to do something with this piece. Well, they've done something very creative with the piece, and I think that this is quite fascinating. Have a listen.
Bueno, aquí es donde ustedes cantan con nosotros. Dice: fiesta, si lo quiere, ¿por qué no lo manifiesta? Y olvidarse del dolor. Fiesta, si lo quiere, ¿por qué no lo manifiesta? Y olvidarse del dolor. Fiesta, si lo quiere, ¿por qué no lo manifiesta? Y olvidarse del dolor. Fiesta, si lo quiere, ¿por qué no lo manifiesta? Y olvidarse del dolor. Que no lo manifiesta y olvidarse del dolor. Fiesta, si lo quiere, porque no lo manifiesta y olvidarse del dolor.
Well, that was quite a steamy video with that, and that was the Amaretto Ensemble, they call themselves, the Amaretto Ensemble. They're online and they've done quite a few interesting tracks like this, revisiting old music and reinvigorating it and reinventing it. It's fusion at its best. It's full of, full of interest, I think. It's great. And so I'm afraid I'm going to have to, it's going to be weeks before I get this fully out of my system. So I'm afraid there will be other fiestas. And I may even, hopefully, I can find something contemporary to complement them with, because I think that was particularly good. Now, I was thinking of having a think. We haven't had a female soloist for a while. Now, I know there's a couple of listeners who really enjoy Nina Simone, and I really enjoy Nina Simone. So this is sort of getting to that Christmas season. I think this is one of our very earliest records. It's in stereo. The last one was in stereo. In fact, it was a fantastic stereo track, and I didn't forewarn people, so you may not have had that experience, but this one is in stereo. And it's from an album on Bethlehem Records. and that I would sort of put Nina Simone on the map. And because it's sort of nearly Christmas, it's got a bit of a Christmassy flavour to it. So let's have a listen to early Nina, and this is a particularly fire recording from 1958, VK3SL testing.
What can you do? Old girl, you're through. Sit there, count your little fingers. Unhappy little girl blue. Sit there, count the raindrops falling on you. Each time you knew all you can ever count on are the raindrops that fall on little girl blue. Won't you just sit there, count the little raindrops falling on you. 'Cause it's time you knew all you can ever count on are the raindrops that fall on little girl blue. No use, old girl, you might as well surrender, 'cause your hopes are getting slender and slender. Why won't somebody send a tender blue boy to cheer up little girl blue?
Yeah, that's something very special. It was great to hear Nina Simone in her absolute best and accompanying herself presumably. And that's on that was a bit of a ping-pong stereo, so you may not have got the full effect if you're just listening on one or another of our mediums. but I did have a listen back at 160. It sort of sounded okay, but there was a bit of light percussion, which was very much in one ear, early stereo. But that's where it all started. That album, I think, was Nina Simone's first, from 1958. So, yeah, great to hear that. And what we might do now, I had a piano roll, but there's no way I could play a piano roll after hearing that. Oh dear, how to follow on? This is the thing. You need stuff that sort of keeps the atmosphere lingering, but I'm afraid I am going to have to take a slight sidestep and have an OTR segment. This will be okay. This is one from the Hair Archive, recent upload, and this is Stan Rofe from 1961. I was actually going to play this last week, but we'll do it today. It goes for about 7 minutes, and Mr. Rofe, in his inimitable, cool, calm and collected style, he interviews the Blue Jays, and he discusses their latest album. So this is from 3KZ in 1961. So have a listen, see what you think, and we will maybe have the piano roll after this. We'll see how we go. VK3SL testing.
Well, we have a brand new label here right now called Crest. The best that's pressed is on a crest, so the record company says. But I don't know so much about the best that's pressed being on a crest. We have the Blue Jays here. Good idea, fellas. Who do we have here? Would you like to come over and introduce yourselves? Just briefly, if you don't mind too much. What's your name?
Laurie Hubbard.
What do you do for the group? Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I know you do, Laurie. Quite frankly, saw you at Newmarket Theatre. I think you're really great, fella. Who else is here? Frankie Brent, rhythm.
Frankie Brent, rhythm guitar.
Frankie Brent, rhythm guitar, yes. And sing too. Okay, Frankie, thank you. This boy I think we had last night. What's your name again? As if we don't want to know. Bobby Johnson. What's your position?
Yeah, I'm in back.
Yeah, go on. Tell us. On the drums. On the drums, that's good. You built a rather fine sound. And sing. You always... Yeah, that'll be the day. At Christmas time, yes. And here we have the larrikin.
Texan, that is.
The Texan.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
Come on, Long John.
I play the bass.
You play the bass?
Yeah, not play blonde too.
Okay, well sit down there. And they're very charming, delightful manageress, Mrs. Watson. She looks charming tonight too. Today, I should say. You're getting me all messed up now.
Oh, we have a little bit of a
They like to hear the little record the boys have made. Let's sincerely wish them all the best of luck here in Melbourne too, because they're Melbourne boys and Melbourne talent is certainly the thing these days. All right, now, I'd like to hear that record. Should we play it? You think so? Think we should? What's the name of this record, by the way? Everybody loves Saturday night, especially at Cheltenham. Well, that's the very first playing here in Melbourne Town of a group rather called the Blue Joyers. They got several very good dancers here in Melbourne Town too. They play Friday night at Newmarket Theatre, the Saturday night at Cheltenham Youth Hall. That's where everybody really does love it too. And Sunday night, the Newmarket Theatre, Racecourse Road. A really good group. Think we might flip the record. No, Alec, don't phone. Just flip the record over, son. We'll play the flip side. This Crest 45 label, a brand new record company label too here in Melbourne. And a brand new group, the Blue Jays, recording for them. And when's the record going to be on sale at Record Buzz? Next Wednesday here in Melbourne. Okay? God bless the Blue Jays, and let's wish them all the very best of luck with this little record. Here's the theme tune they always sign off with two of their dancers. Quite a good one. A big rockin' version of the Maori's Farewell. Blue Jays here from Melbourne Town, and a little record on the Crest label, which you'll find available too at Record Buzz next Wednesday here in Melbourne Town. The big revival sound of the Maori's Farewell, and the flip side being, of course, Everybody Loves Saturday Night. I believe they're having a big battle of the bands too on Friday night at Newmarket Theatre in Racecourse Road. The Blue Jays, of course, the resident band, along with the Leadalls here in Melbourne. They're back on their feet apparently. Good to see the boys here too. Along with the Satellites, yeah. And Malcolm Arthur and the Knights, a big battle of the band. Did you say a real devil's night? Real devil. Be there with a pitchfork Friday night. The Newmarket Theatre, Racecourse Road, a good dance, so why not be in it?
There we go. That was Stan Rofe with the Blue Jays in 1961. And he talks about the Crest label, Melbourne label, with Mr. Herman, Marcus Herman, at the helm. And, so some good promotion there for the Blue Jays. But it's pretty bilgy. It's not that exciting. But he does give it a good... He does give it a good lift. Stan the man, he's certainly one of a kind. He was one of a kind. He's and so much echo on his voice. It was I found it quite hard to hear him at first. I had to stuff around with the equaliser a bit to find a happy medium there. Lots of echo. I need an echo chamber in here. That would be good. If I could have an echo chamber, then I could sound like a real DJ, not a wannabe. All I need is an echo, and then I'm right. Yeah, well, I'll have to make an echo chamber out the back, big spring, and feed the mixer into it, and then I can sort of reverberate round the room, and then I can sit back and I can feel like I'm Stan the man. That sounds good. Well, how are we going to do the next thing? Oh, how can I move into classical music after that? It's hard to tie these themes, isn't it? Well, there'll have to be a short break because I've got to hop over to the piano. The piano roll is an interesting one. It's an unusual label. Well, it's not a label, it's a brand. I can't remember what the brand is, but it's non-typical. And I found it in the bottom of the box without a cover. And it dates from early days, from World War I vintage. And it's a polka from Pest. Now, we have Budapest, but this is Pest, because Buda and Pest were two cities each side of the Danube, is it, I think? Yes, and they amalgamated and became Budapest. Now, Pest was one of those cities, and this is a polka from Pest. So, yes, it's sort of a little bit provincial. And shall I play it really fast? Oh, I think I will. Polkas have to be played quite fast. So, I will hop over to the piano. And I did a little bit of a test of this before, so I'm reasonably hopeful that we won't have a major disaster. And so far, so good in the disaster department. I'm still putting out full power. We haven't had the thermal wind back issue, so that's good. So everything's holding up. And we've got a new monitoring system. It's not ideal, but it's better than what I had before. And I modified the FRG 7700. There was someone online who said if you snip some capacitors, you can make the FM sound much better. And so anyone who's got an FRG 7700, all you need to do is snip capacitor C13 on the FM board and bridge it, and then you've got you'll have nice Phi FM. So I'm looking forward to listening out tomorrow night with this as well, because it's always been muffle missions, the FRG 7700. So now I'm using it to feed back into the desk. It's got an attenuator too, so it's quite useful for that. But again, it's a proximity thing. It's a little bit too close to the emitters, so it's not entirely satisfactory, but it's better. It's a step in the right direction. All right, back to what we were talking about before, Buda and Pest polka. And I'll switch on the other microphone and we will hop over and see what happens next. Okay, I'm presuming you can hear me. I'm going to bring the mic down because it seems to work better at a lower level. If I get the mic right down here, and then I'm going to walk over to the pianola and start pedaling. to say, if I use a bit of sustain pedal and slow that down, I think that's got some real prospect. Let's give it another go. Sorry folks, I'm compelled. That's one of the best piano rolls I've got here, and there is a bit of limited expression with the sustain. So we'll just slow it down a bit. There you go. Wound it back. We'll reconnect things here. This is good. So I'll just slow it down a little bit, and I'll use the sustain pedal, the sustain switch, and see if I can make it sound a bit more musical, a bit more arresting. Try a different key. Makes a bit of a difference using the sustain pedal. You can have a little bit more control over, well, sort of pseudo phrasing, I suppose. Alright, well, I'm just going to go back to the other microphone now and we will recommence. And I just realised that I had the wrong microphone on. I had the wrong microphone. You may have still heard it though, because let me see. Hello. Yeah, it probably still came through. I'm hoping it came through. That's a bit of a shame. What a pity. Well, never mind. I'll have to turn that one off. This is the problem. I should have labels on everything. I had the condenser mic on, so it probably was a bit more sense, so it would have picked up something. But the mic that's local to the pianola wasn't switched on. That's a disappointment. Oh well, we'll have it again another time. I'm not going to play it a third time. Hoping you heard something. Anyhow, that was I don't know the label, but it's a pianola roll from a different source, and it sort of looked ancient and interesting, and I think it was. So that's our little pianola thing. Let's think about what's happening next. Oh yeah, I was going to play some Maria Tipo, and this is really from the ridiculous to the sublime, so maybe that's a link of sorts. Now, I've got this on my iPad, so what I have to do is switch this in. And I was talking to Frank yesterday at the club about Maria Tipo, and she's a Bach specialist. And her mother was a student of Busoni, and so she comes from an impeccable background. But she is an amazing pianist. She's still alive. She's about in her 80s, I think, now. I don't think she's concertizing much. There's quite a few recordings online of her. She's playing Mozart concertos, and she didn't have a huge career. She taught for most of her career, but she's just the most beautiful Bach playing I've heard. And if I can find the link here, yeah, I'm keen to hear Andreas Schiff play Bach as well. There are a lot of great Bach players. I also love Edwin Fischer's Bach. His Bach is amazing. So let's find it here. Classical music. I'm going through the links. Partita number 6. Well, let's have a little bit of listen to some Bach. And with Maria, this is one of Bach's partitas. I'm just going to switch this through. Make sure that I've got that on. I think it's right to go. We'll have a listen, see what happens. And yeah, see what you think. I think this playing is just gorgeous. VK3SL testing. Come on. Do I have the volume up? No. Okay. All right. We might need a few more little changes, and then we'll start that one again. Okay. Yeah, the levels are not very high, are they? All right. We'll just take 2 on that. We'll give it another go. I'll stop it, start it, and see if we can make this work. Yeah, we heard the playing of Maria Tipo, and there was just a segment from one of Bach's partitas. I think it's number 6 in E minor. That's BWV 830. And she is an amazing pianist. It's just got its most natural sense of pace. And I marvel at the way her phrasing is, her rubato. Her rubato is just very effortless and natural. It's as if she's speaking, and in some sort of quiet, intimate dialogue the whole way through. It just has that beautiful sense of its own pace, and it just ebbs and flows naturally. And it's absolutely nothing contrived. It's marvellous playing. And I remember hearing, there's all the partitas here, and it's about 2 hours of them. And I remember once going on a bushwalk, and I don't usually do bushwalk with headphones on, but I was walking on my own a few years ago, and I was listening to this, and I remember being completely transformed. It was one of those sort of little existential experiences because of the music. I was so engrossed in her playing while I was walking, and walking's quite meditative anyhow, and you're often in a neutral zone and not thinking of other things when walking. But in this instance, I remember I've never felt so in the music as I did on that occasion, and it's very memorable. And just listening back to it then, it's all there. Everything is just so beautifully poised. And she has this remarkability not only to make the music sound natural and flowing, but also to characterise the different voicings with slightly different colours. And so you hear this this dialogue between the left and right hand. It's masterful playing, and it's probably, I can't imagine any male pianist playing it like that. It's probably quite feminine playing in a way. I don't know, it's a bit of a generalisation, but yeah, it's something quite special. So I'll have to revisit Maria Tipo and play other recordings of hers. She did a magnificent Goldberg variations, but that would take a whole program just devoted to that. Maybe there's room for that occasionally, but I was really happy to hear that again. All right, so, well, we're moving on to some sort of a bit of special stuff. Now, how do I go about this? One of my very favourite pieces of all time, and people are sort of rolling their eyes thinking he says this every 5 minutes, and it's sort of true, but nevertheless, in my mind at this moment, one of my favourite pieces is the Pergolesi Stabat Mater. I remember hearing it as a kid, and it's just lofty and incredible. And Pergolesi, of course, was a great Italian composer. He died at the age of 26, so he was just reaching his zenith, and suddenly he popped off the perch. So poor old Pergolesi didn't really last long, and he became a super legend in the few years that he was writing music. He became a super legend. And to the extent that everyone was saying that their compositions were by him, and there ended up being this vast archive of compositions supposedly by Pergolesi because people wanted to attach their name to his. And you have modern scholars have sort of sorted the wheat from the chaff, and there's actually not a huge amount of original Pergolesi music. But the Stabat Mater is, and the original score for it survives, and he wrote it just before he died. Died of tuberculosis, I think. So let's have a listen to Pergolesi's Stabat Mater, and just select movements. And the first movement, of course, is the glorious one. Okay, we just heard some select movements from Pergolesi's Stabat Mater, a local concert recorded last Sunday night. And just sitting in the audience with my daughter sniffling next to me, you can hear her. And so, yeah, it's a work that I hold very close. I love the Stabat Mater. I remember listening to it when I was a kid with my grandfather. And I've got his record of it here as well. And it's a great work, and it was a work that was very highly regarded in its time. It sort of became incredibly popular in Pergolesi's time, and then people were shocked when he passed away just shortly after it sort of hit the scene. Now, Bach even was impressed, and he parodied it, and parodying in Bach's sense was not ridiculing the work, but actually embracing it. And Bach used it in one of his cantatas. In fact, one of his very late cantatas, he set Psalm 51 to the Stabat Mater. He didn't use the Amen at the end. And I just thought I'd play a little bit of that because you just hear what Bach did to it. It's quite interesting, the original setting of it, which we just heard, was only a string quartet, would have had an orchestra originally. But so it was quite light on in the accompaniment in the concert. But in reality, Bach, when he embraced it, he revoiced the work, and he, particularly the orchestral part, he added a viola part which wasn't in the original, and he revoiced it, and he sort of improved it in a way. But he used it as a vehicle to show how the earlier techniques, because there was a little bit of argy-bargy about where music was heading, and Bach used the Pergolesi Stabat Mater as an example of using more traditional Baroque writing techniques, textual approaches to heighten a work. So yes, it was considered a parody, but a parody out of great respect for the work. So look, just listen to the first movement. Just the first movement only goes for a couple of minutes, and we'll it's here, yes, and I think it's sung by, in this instance, an alto and contralto. Yes, he revoiced it for soloist, not the choir too. So yeah, BWV 1083 J.S. Bach, parodying the music of Giovanni Pergolesi, VK3SL testing. Yeah, we just heard Bach's transcription of Pergolese's Stabat Mater. It's from his BWV 1083, one of the later things he wrote. He died not that long after. I think he wrote that about 1747, thereabouts. Bach died in 1750. I don't think he wrote much in his very last years, but that's significant. And he also wrote a bass line, which wasn't in the original. He added to the bass line, at least. And, and set it as a soprano and alto duo. And beautiful sort of, the suspension is what kills me. I love them. Yes, really magnificent the way that they just carry that tension and release. Yeah, anyhow, so that's a bit of a riff on Pergolese's Stabat Mater. While we're sort of in sort of a lofty choral zone, another recording I've been meaning to play for a very long time, and I was talking to Frank, and I think he might have played this himself at his music evening tonight. I'll be interested to hear if he did. But this is a recording of Samuel Barber's Adagio, presented as an Agnus Dei for a choral group. Now, one of my favourite versions of this is a group called Voces 8, VOCES 8. And it's a group of singers who just have the most incredible togetherness and resonance. And I just think it's just something superhuman what happens here. It's incredible. And look, we'll have a listen to this Barber's Adagio. It's a profoundly emotional work. It's incredible writing, and originally written for string quartet, and it's been arranged for just about every combination of instruments, but works particularly well in the setting. So this is VK3SL. We're testing here on 160 and 2 meters and streaming online as well, and we'll now have the music of Samuel Barber. Yeah, the music of Samuel Barber, his Adagio, or Agnus Dei in that instance, in that arrangement. And the ensemble was Voces 8. And magnificent setting, really. Okay, well, that'll be our penultimate offering tonight. We'll finish up now with something else pretty magical. There's been a recording, if I can find it here. Oh, don't tell me it's disappeared. I'll see if I can find it. I'll have to go back on my history list. Bear with me. It has disappeared. I must have accidentally clicked it closed. But I will find it. Here we have it. It's Chief RO sends at Eurydice with Kathleen Ferrier. It's a live recording, and a live recording made in was the year she died. It was shortly before she died, 1952, I think it is. So I'll just get some background on this. It's off a radio broadcast from that time, and we'll see what it says here. If I can find some information. No, it's not giving me much. It's live performance. And yeah, she had a series of mishaps on stage when she had cancer, and I think this was at that time. Now, I can't authenticate that information at the moment. Anyhow, it's not that relevant. Kathleen Ferrier, as you know, is probably one of the most compelling contraltos of a generation. Her singing has such a dark, arresting quality, and she's so intensely musical. It's amazing artist. So we'll have a listen to this recording of Chief RO, and this is an example. We spoke earlier about sad, happy music in a minor key with a happy theme, that sort of juxtaposition. Well, this is the other way around. This is in a major key, but it's a very sad piece. So it's a interesting dynamic here. So at this point I'll say cheers. Thank you for listening through, and we'll be back on board next week. I should mention that next week will be a really special Missions next week, because Frank's coming over, and it'll be entirely his playlist, which I'm very happy about. And we'll have a bit of a yarn, so we'll have a good live Missions next week. It's been quite a while since we've had one, and I'm really looking forward to catching up with Frank on air. Should be great. So anyhow, we'll listen back. We'll listen back on Channel D anyhow after this is finished. This is VK3SL. Wishing everyone a good week. Cheers for now.
Che mortale